I don't know whether it's the production team or whether it's the editing team, but it's all there. It's like all the bits of the jigsaw puzzle are there in my mind.
So the movie today is Lupe. We are Boys on Film. My name is Phil. Thank you for being here. Hello, Sean. Hello, Raj.
Hello, hello.
So it stars Rafael Albarrán. I think we mentioned another film recently. I think it was Retaliation, the film with Orlando Bloom, and that took quite a while to come to our screens. This one, again, I think it's been in the works for quite a few years. So it is the directorial debut of Andre Phillips and Charles Voulo. Feels a little dated, I think, but then it did take 6 years to make. To me, it felt a little dated.
Yeah, I guess so. That wasn't kind of like it didn't. I don't know whether that didn't anchor me how it felt, because I think it was the way it was shot in New York. I just it had a feel. It was underpinned by New York, maybe some of the clothes and stuff, but yeah.
It's definitely an important story, though.
Yeah, I think for me, it did feel a little weird, the whole cinematography of the film. It did kind of feel dated, and I was a bit surprised by it. HBO Max, is kind of known for their really good production values and bringing quality stories, especially trans stories, to the screen. But I thought this was an interesting pick that perhaps they licensed it. Full disclaimer, I work for the company that produces HBO Max, so I kind of know sort of their whole vision as to the stories they want to bring to the screen. But I thought this one was an odd pick for them, especially I'd be remiss to say off the back of the series Medina, which was so well done, which is also on HBO Max. I just thought this was kind of an odd pick and a little bit too indie, but nevertheless, it was a story I enjoyed. But I just thought it wasn't quite up to that production level that we'd come to expect from HBO and HBO Max. I don't know. That's just me.
I read somewhere that Rafael, the lead star, I think they now, since making the film, they identify as non-binary now, I think.
Really?
I might be wrong, but I read that. So that's quite interesting. I think maybe since the movie was made.
So it follows the lead, Rafael, and he has a relative that has gone missing, Isabel, and it's his sister, I believe. And he follows her. He follows her to New York and tries to find her. And through that, he's trying to find her through sex workers on the streets, etc. So you've got one narrative, which is him trying to find this relative, underpinned by also the fact that Rafael is discovering their authentic self, I should say, because he starts to look at the idea of being a trans woman through the lens of this movie. So you have these two narratives that are working together, and at times they overlap and at times they're independent.
Did you think the narratives worked? Because I got really frustrated by the sister searching storyline, and I don't think it really paid off, really, after such a repetitive loop that it seemed to get into. It was like it seemed to be going nowhere.
Yeah, I think that's the main problem I had with the movie, is that they spent so much time in the storyline, but it didn't have a payoff. We never really saw the sister in the modern day where the story was told. It was all in flashbacks, and I kind of wanted that resolution. And it seemed like there was little branches off the story that it kept taking, but it kind of needed to stay par for the course, if you ask me.
I agree, Rod. It's like one of those stories that you used to write at school where you got bored at the end and then you couldn't find them at the end.
Yeah, lazy
and
ending.
That's kind of what I felt about it. I was a bit like, okay, what resolution will we get? Because the underarching story of this is finding Isabel. And you have found yourself in these situations where you're looking for Isabel. But actually, you didn't. But actually, the whole angle is you found yourself while looking for Isabel, because you put yourself into a situation where you now live in New York, where you can explore who you are as an authentic person. And so I guess that's interesting, but I did feel that I didn't get the payout.
Yeah, so no, me neither. So I suppose that is a plus in some ways. Another plus, I would say, is that there are people involved in this movie that understand the trans story and the trans journey, because Lana, the character that Rafael is friendly with.
She's great. She's great.
A transgender artist as well, who I think did a lot of research in this movie as well as acting. So I think it's great that the right people were involved in the making of this. It's not just somebody else who doesn't understand trying to tell that story.
And that character to me was probably the only redeeming part of the movie. You know, as you guys know, I like a bit of hope, and she kind of brought that into the storyline. But you know, if they would have just focused on that core like relationship between him and his friend who was teaching him the ways of, you know, becoming a woman and what it's like in New York, and that kind of weird relationship that he had with his boxer trainer mate, I guess, which was a sad story if you ask me. If they would have focused on those two things, I think it would have been really good. But I think we're kind of living in an age where trans stories were spoiled for choice a bit. I mean, it's hard to like watch this movie and think, oh, but Fantastic Woman was so much better, you know? And for me, I just kept thinking, oh, Veneno was like, so like, I wanted to live in that world. And then you get a story that's not so well told. It kind of dampers it. So, you know, although we're spoiled to have the choice of stories that we have and bringing trans representation to the screen, you still got to bring your A game when it comes to story and production. Otherwise, for me, I'm just going to compare it to other things. And I didn't think it really had that much anything new to tell to the story, you know, anything new to add to the representation. I don't know. I feel I'm being a little bit negative, but
well, it's interesting, Raj, because that's where I think you're right. The interaction between Rafael and Lana is the film, because the rest of it is just stuff, right? And there's moments where I think Lana's played by Celia Harrison. There's moments where it's almost like documentary-esque, the conversation, and I was like, oh, I really like this. It's got a real texture. It feels like there's kind of like knowledge being passed, and there's some sense of learning, and in some ways it's different from a Fantastic Woman, because it's someone at the start of their journey starting to explore who they can be, to be their authentic. And I thought that was great. Then I've got Isabel, and I was like, I don't really care about Isabel because this narrative's going nowhere. There's no payoff.
Totally.
And then there is this interplay with Arun, the guy, the boxing club, and you're like, that probably could have had I'd rather have saved 20 minutes on Isabel and put 20 minutes over here, and I think then you would have something that had been tighter, and it would have been a story really about discovery and exploration.
Exactly. I think if it had been a story about Rafael and Lana, I would have enjoyed it. I think it would have been a much better film, and more, I think it would have been stronger, because I think you obviously invested in the characters as well, and I think it's a lot more believable, because a lot of these, like you say, the story arcs with the other characters, I didn't believe them as much. I just thought they were shoehorned in.
There's one scene that kind of was like, oh, this could get good. This could get good, is the taco guy who was interested in Rafael on the street. Like, it was like out of nowhere. And, you know, that sort of like, oh, okay, I would like to dive a little bit deeper into that. And then Rafael just ran away. That was the end of that. And I know it was like due to shyness and sort of the overall, you know, feeling of being overwhelmed in this new sort of situation, but you could have went with that instead of looking for the sister that's never going to show up.
I'd forgotten about the taco guy. Oh,
see, I did generally. I was like, oh, this could be good. This could go somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think it has a place.
Yeah.
I think it has a place in the canon of these kind of like semi documentary filmmaking, because that's what it felt like at times.
Yeah.
And I think I can, just so I get my head around why HBO Max selected it, because I think I can work it out. I just think it needs, I don't know whether it's the production team or whether it's the editing team, but it's all there. It's like all the bits of the jigsaw puzzle are there in my mind.
It was too cluttered though.
It was arranged. Yeah.
I think they should have trimmed it like in the story.
There's a beautiful, simple story right through the middle of it, which is Rafael and Lana, and that's the bit that's the bit you want to watch. That's the storytelling. That's the imparting of knowledge. That's the great bit of it, and the rest is like fluff.
For me, kudos to the directors and the writers for taking a chance on this sort of storyline. Although it was a bit experimental out of the gate, watch the space and see what stories they bring to the table, you know, in their next films. But kudos for them. I mean, every story, especially trans stories, are good to tell. They do have a place in the canon, like you say, Sean. But for me, it was just a little too experimental, and I wanted something a bit more polished.
3 for me.
It's
3 for me.
2 for me.
2.
That's what I thought.
So we have got our work cut out for us. Oh my God. Breathe in, guys, because we've got films galore over the next few weeks. South by Southwest and BFI Flare. Are you ready?
I'm getting my brain ready. I feel like I think I'm preloading on like Anadin and Nurofen before I even start.
I took the week off work next week just to watch films. So many.
Well, Raj, you can do the 4 a day.
I think it's going to be more than that.
That's just Flare.
It's going to be 6, I think.
South by and Flare, I think it was something like 40 films I had seen in the course of 2 weeks. I mean, after that, I just don't feel like watching a movie for a long time.
I'm going to be so over movies by the end of it.
Yeah, we're going to be movied out by the time Flare is over, definitely.
It's all happening here. What a better way to leave this review. It's like, yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe and watch us become completely bedraggled by the end of it. Like, after 3 weeks, we'll just be...
At the end of this, we'll be like, there's a start and a middle and the end. 2 stars.
And you can cut 20 minutes out.
You can cut 20 minutes out.
It's going to be interesting. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe. More is coming. Much more. See you next time.